Well, hello, King's Cross Church. It's Casey Shutt. I wanted to provide an update on General Assembly. I wrestled with how best to do this because whether to go the video route or just to do it in the service, but I thought the video would be a little bit easier and a little more opt-in-ish. So if you're not interested at all, that's okay. Just no need to click on the link, and you wouldn't even make it this far if you're not interested. But here you are. So clearly you have some interest in what happened last week at General Assembly. So let me try to summarize what happened. But first, let me explain what General Assembly is, right? It's not in the name, but it is true. We are a Presbyterian church. King's Cross Church is a King's Cross Presbyterian church. And what that means is we are connected to a presbytery, which is a region of churches and elders from those churches. And we're tied to that. And we come together 3 times a year for a meeting, and we do business between the meetings. And there's work that happens on various committees of the presbytery. And so in our region, our presbytery is all of Oklahoma, Northwest Arkansas, so like Fayetteville, Springdale, Bentonville, Rogers area, Southwest Missouri, Joplin, Springfield, and like I said, all of Oklahoma. So we come together. Now, every region, in some cases, it's like one city that is a presbytery, like Atlanta. There's tons of PCA churches in Atlanta. So what happens is once a year, all of the presbyteries, elders from all the presbyteries come together to meet as one body, General Assembly as it's called. And this year was the 3rd largest assembly. There was over 2,000 ministers there, and it was in Richmond, Virginia, which I thought Richmond was a wonderful spot for this assembly. It's a neat town. I've never been there before. Unlike this week on the East Coast, the weather last week was just glorious. So it was all great. It's a great opportunity to see friends, to meet new friends, but to see old friends. I saw a friend from seminary that I have not seen since like 19 years. Since 2005 was the last time I had seen him, and we actually hung out quite a bit. It was a great time to meet new folks and to spend time together. But there's also a lot of work that happens. And some of that work is, so you might be, as part of a presbytery, commissioned to be to take part in a permanent committee. Now, the Presbyterian Church has several of these permanent committees. They are things like Covenant Seminary, which is the seminary in St. Louis that is our official denomination seminary. Covenant College in Lookout Mountain, Georgia is the denomination's college. RUF is our ministry to college students. MTW, which is our missions organization. MNA, which is the committee that is focused on missions in North America, like church planting and so forth. So there's all these different permanent committees. One of them is called Interchurch Relations. And that was the committee I was serving on this particular year. And so I went to the meeting. We learned about other Presbyterian and Reformed denominations within North America, but also globally. We heard from the Free Church of Scotland, an update there, and learning that the Free Church of Scotland is actually the largest, according to them, the largest biblically faithful denomination in all of Europe. We heard from the Presbyterian Church in Mexico. And as I recall, that denomination is larger than the PCA in Mexico. We heard from the Presbyterian Church in Brazil and Korea and Australia. So all of these representatives from Presbyterian churches across the globe came and gave their reports. So that was part of that. And we also, as a group, voted to pursue, at least inquire, more information on possibly joining the International Conference of Reformed Churches, the ICRC. So that was kind of the one piece of business we had. So all of these different committees are meeting Monday, Tuesday, some even meet on Sunday. And then Tuesday night, the whole assembly begins and everybody comes together Each committee provides a report. There's a lot of different things that happen. You vote on a moderator. There's all kinds of things. There's worship involved. It all begins with worship, and which is important. And but the big thing of the week, the thing that probably gets discussed mostly, is overtures. So we have a book of church order which guides and directs our work as ministers. And so there is change in order to amend that book of church order, and from time to time amendments become necessary. You have to create an overture. It has to be approved by one of those committees, the overtures committee, and then it's put before the General Assembly for a vote. And if it passes, then it goes back to the presbyteries for a presbytery vote requiring a 2/3 majority. And then it goes back the following year to General Assembly to be voted on. And there was a piece, an amendment to the BCO that was voted on, that it was introduced last year and was voted on and approved this year. And that is, without going into too much detail, it basically requires more precision around how we use the terms deacons and elders, that we need to use those in reference to actually ordained people. And so that was that. That was one of the big developments there as it relates to the book of church order. There were many other matters that came up. You may have heard discussion about a book that came out a long time ago that I'd never even heard of, actually, called Jesus Calling. And that there was some contention surrounding that. And by the way, all of this assembly is available to be viewed online. It's all been uploaded to YouTube. And so you can see some of this discussion. But one of the other interesting debate items that took place was the question of whether in our courts, if we have a discipline case, a church discipline case, where we're trying to understand if there was an offense, if, let's say, a pastor, for example, is in the court, in the church court, dealing with an accusation of sin, then witnesses come and testify to that. Now, the witness has to believe in a higher power, is what the BCO says, in a future state of rewards and punishments. Okay, so it could the witness could be a Muslim, they could be a pagan, they could be a Jewish person, or anything in between. They don't have to believe in the triune God. They need to believe in a higher power. Okay, so that leaves out atheists, of course. Now, you can imagine there's many scenarios where, let's say, a hired person at a church witnesses something, and maybe they're not, maybe it's a janitorial staff, maybe it's a child care worker that's hired on Sunday mornings, maybe it's just a person out in public that witnesses something that just happens to be an atheist. At present, their testimony cannot be admitted into the case in order to understand, what happened. And so there's been a push to try to remove that requirement of belief in a higher power, so that to open the way for a potential atheist that might have witnessed something take place. So that created some controversy. There's compelling arguments on both sides. But the minority report was to remove that requirement. It did not pass. Now, I could foresee this going forward again, or coming up again through the channels. Any presbytery can make an overture. They send it to their presbytery votes on it, and then it makes its way over to the overtures committee, and ultimately they can put it before the General Assembly. So that's how that happens, and I could see something similar working its way up through the channels for next year. But for now, nothing changes on that front. So that is, in under 10 minutes, your report on the 51st General Assembly of the PCA in Richmond, Virginia. Next year, it's in Chattanooga. I'll provide another report then. Please feel free to ask me any questions, to email me or catch me at some point if you have any questions on more details related to this. But all in all, it was a good time. It was an encouraging time. And as I said in my email, one of the most encouraging things of the whole deal was the stated clerk's report, which indicated that we're a little denomination, right? But we're growing. No other denomination is growing. The big ones are in decline, which is a sad thing. The church overall is in decline, but the PCA is an outlier in that it is actually growing in the midst of many of these churches shrinking. And so we thank God for that. That's a blessing of God. I don't know that it's anything, we have all people, it's our theologies. That's a blessing of God. That's God's work. And so let's pray that we steward it well. Thank you for listening, and we'll see you on Sunday. Blessings.